Hey, I wanted to go over a couple of the big concepts that we're getting in the Vandals Field Guide to Writing. I refer to these as reading strategies that will help you as you're approaching more complicated and difficult texts. So for the rest of Module 1, all of the assignments, unless otherwise stated, are going to be directed towards whichever long-form nonfiction essay you want to work with. That's either Meat by Anthony Bourdain or Notes of a Native Son by James Baldwin. Whichever you are working with, write towards that. When it comes to peer reviews, I'll separate you into two groups so that you are all dealing with the same text. So this is how we're going to be moving forward, approaching these texts. So first is this idea of previewing. Rather than just diving into a text, look at the way that it's organized. Look at the way that that it's constructed. So for technical books like the Field Guide to Writing, what this can mean is looking at all of the headers and subheaders that are going to give you kind of a sense of how the chapter is laid out. And so then you have a bit more of an understanding of the direction that the text will be taking you. This is different in essays like the ones I've assigned, but it still can be done. So we're talking about the idea of a topic sentence. When you're writing an essay, the first sentence of a new paragraph should functionally be telling us what the paragraph is going to be dealing with. This is something that we expect from you in terms of your writing, but also these professional writers are doing the same move. So one of the ways you can go through and figure out a longer essay like this is just kind of read the first and last sentences just to get kind of an idea of the shape and the direction things are moving. How this can help is it gives you a sense of what is going on, what the text is about, but more than that, it gives you a sense of where you begin to where you are going. This familiarity will allow you, when you do your slower readings, to know where you're already going, and so you can anticipate somewhat the direction. This gives you a sense of organization, and that can tell you so much about what the text wants to communicate to you, even if it is just intuitively. So, next one we're going to be dealing with is summarizing. On Thursday, you have an assignment writing a summary that you'll be doing in regards to your essay. This is just a good skill to have. You know that you can understand a concept when you can explain it to a 5-year-old. What this means is you are able to take potentially complicated terminology and reduce it down to something understandable. By paraphrasing like that, it allows you to have a greater comprehension of it and might even allow you to kind of see where there are holes in your argument. It allows you to have a little bit of ownership over the text and the concepts. And because of that, it's demonstrating a sophisticated understanding. One of the added benefits is that frequently essays will be involving somewhat that you have to paraphrase the topics that you're dealing with, especially as you get farther along in your college education. You're going to be having to juggle multiple texts at once. So summarizing is an important skill, and one thing I would recommend is that you should always save your summaries. Hold on to them. You can condense them further and throw them into essays really easily as a way that allows you to have more control, and you should always be trying to look, especially in writing, to where you can double dip, where you can make the work do like the work you've already done, you want to be able to reuse it. Next is annotation. Annotation is when you write comments or questions in the margin of a page. These marks can be extremely varied, and the next slide is entirely going to be different types of annotation. The Vandal Field Guide, I'm conflating two things that the Vandal Field Guide covers. One is annotation and one is coding. Coding is when you use something specifically that is just a symbol, an exclamation point or a question mark or an arrow. These are more shorthand that come a little quicker, whereas in the Vandal Field Guide, they talk about annotation as more thorough, like marking comments. But the advantages to annotating a text, it makes you read slower. It makes you take your time, and this is going to make you pay more attention. Similarly, you're forced to assess for yourself the importance of what you read. You're having to sort between filler and main points. That kind of categorization forces you into a more active reading position. By marking, you are interacting with the text. This is helpful in a lot of ways because it means, especially when you are, we've devoted an entire unit to one singular text. When you come back and read later, your annotations mark and give you bookmarks of where these important concepts were coming up. This interaction allows you to come back. If you read one of these essays years later, it allows you to see how maybe your thought process has changed. It allows you to move forward, knowing a little bit more of how you thought about it. Because I promise, by the time you get done with your undergraduate education, you will not remember the essays you went over, and this will, in your freshman year, and this will allow you a foot in the door for yourself. And finally, marks of confusion or interest can flag your attention when rereading, or for when you are writing an essay. Often, when I'm writing an essay that deals with an outside text, I will go through and just pull quotations. I'll just type down the quotations that I'm interested in using ahead of time so that when I actually get into the writing, it's already set up and ready for me. All right, these are the types of annotation. So, underlining, I mostly use this mark to define key points of an argument, such as a thesis statement or a topic sentence. Again, a topic sentence is the first sentence of a paragraph that gives kind of a sense of where the paragraph is going. These are important in that it shows you how the ideas are evolving and transitioning. Commenting, again, this is conflating coding with comment or with annotation. I think that an exclamation point in the margins can also be a type of annotation. This could be, again, simple, just flagging yourself for future attention, or it can be a fully fleshed thought. Potentially, I disagree with this point. I don't like this analogy. This seems like Anthony Bourdain is kind of taking his vulgarity too far. These comments are important for yourself, especially when you're maybe commenting on that later. Questioning can just be a question mark on a complex passage that you don't quite understand yet, or it can be a full thought. Again, I don't know why James Baldwin would bring up this interaction with the waitress. What is this doing? Highlighting, to me, feels very similar to underlining, but it also allows the flexibility of multiple colors that can be reflected of different ideas or themes. And then finally, and this is one that I don't think gets talked about as much, is referencing, marking where one text reminds you of something else that you've read, and can be really helpful, especially if you're writing with multiple sources. This can be a good way to kind of start drafting for yourself the idea of where you want to take a multiple source essay. So this is what I have for the first two, the second and the third chapter of our reading. Hopefully it's helpful. Just a quick reminder, both the annotated version of your text, your essay, and a summary of it are due tomorrow at midnight. For the annotation, really what I'm going to need you to do is print out a copy of it and mark it on the sides, and then you're going to turn in to BBLearn a copy of the JPEG of the image of your annotated copy of your essay so that I can see that you did it and see that you engaged it. I'm not really going to be looking for the specifics. I'm just looking that you have marked the text. All right. Feel free to email me with any questions, and I hope this video was helpful.